Well, kia ora everyone. I'd like to begin by welcoming the National Party's conversion to supporting savings-based retirement savings. National opposed the scheme introduced many, many years ago by the Kirk government. In fact, they abolished it. They opposed it parts of KiwiSaver when it was first introduced, calling it a tax on jobs. The Key government cut KiwiSaver government contributions in half, as did the Luxon government cut them in half again for a second time. So they've consistently undermined KiwiSaver since it was first introduced. The fact that they're now talking up KiwiSaver is a good thing. We're very, very proud of KiwiSaver as a legacy of the Clark-Cullen Labor government. It is a big part of the answer to New Zealand's retirement savings challenge. But as all things, the devil is always in the detail, and they haven't worked through the detail here. So there needs to be a credible transition plan that supports people on low incomes to get into KiwiSaver and to maintain their contributions. They haven't come up with that, and so as a result, those on low incomes will be hit quite hard by these changes because there is no transition plan. They also need a plan to support those who are not in the workforce, so those who are caring at home, stay-at-home parents, those with disabilities, those who are unemployed. There's a real potential, if you significantly ramp up KiwiSaver, that those not in the workforce will be left behind and will be seriously disadvantaged by it. And there is a huge risk now, as employer contributions continue to increase, that employers will get around that by Uberizing their workforces, by turning their workers into contractors, therefore getting out of having to pay them KiwiSaver contributions. With a government that said they're going to make it easier for employers to turn their employees into contractors, that becomes a very, very real risk. So overall, the Labour Party is supportive of increasing KiwiSaver contributions, but we're concerned that the government haven't done their homework, they haven't figured out the implementation details, and people are going to end up really struggling to do what the government are asking of them.
12% by 2032, is that realistic? They're saying it's okay because it goes up 0.5% a year.
The Australians did something very similar, increasing by a relatively modest amount each year over a long period of time to get to the 12% that they're currently at. Noting, however, that in Australia's case, it's largely employer contributions, not employee contributions as well. So there isn't a requirement for matching employee contributions in the way there is in New Zealand. And that is something we need to work through. So without transitional support, particularly for workers on low incomes, this could hit them really hard.
And what about the government contribution changes? The previous ones, how does that flow into large KiwiSaver retirement funds?
It's ironic that the government has cut KiwiSaver government contributions not once but twice. They cut them first under the Key English government, they then cut them again under the Luxon-Willis government, ultimately denting people's retirement savings balances. Government contributions to KiwiSaver are a good thing. They help people to save for their retirement, and particularly beneficial for those on low incomes.
Do you think making this more comparable with the Australian scheme will be any more of an incentive for Kiwis to stay here rather than going across the ditch, where, as you mentioned, it is 12% employer contributions? That is a better deal still.
It is a good thing to increase retirement savings in New Zealand, particularly if we can get more of those retirement savings invested here in New Zealand. But the transition plan is the critical part. Australians earn a lot more money than New Zealanders do, and so they can more readily meet their retirement savings contributions, recognising too that in Australia it's mostly on the employers, not on the employees.
One of the things that could help businesses with this lead-in is if that's sort of negotiated into people's contracts. That's something the Retirement Commission has just said they don't want to see anymore. They want that banned. Is there a risk that employers will just put these increases into total remuneration packages?
Michael Cullen changed the law to stop employers treating KiwiSaver as part of your overall remuneration so that it was completely separate. The national government under Key and English removed that protection, and now many employers do treat it as part of an employee's overall remuneration. The real risk here is that employees will end up financially worse off in the short term rather than better off, and that's really what we should all be focused on.
Would you bring back that cut?
I think we do need to, if we're going to make KiwiSaver better and bigger, we need to protect employees, and that means making it very clear that KiwiSaver contributions can't be viewed as part of an employee's overall pay packet.
One of the big differences that Nicola was talking about with Australia is that New Zealand's superannuation is universal, but at the same time they talked about this as about
think the National Party are almost certainly going to campaign on raising the superannuation age, and that will be of real detriment to those on low incomes and those who work in manual labouring jobs who are often physically no longer able to work much beyond 65.
Can the country afford it anymore? I mean, I guess on you could reject carve-outs in those sorts of situations, but in general, can the country afford to keep it at 65?
We need a coherent plan for how we manage the big retirement boom that's coming up, and KiwiSaver can be part of the answer to that, but that needs a degree of bipartisan support. It needs some stability. I'm saying the Labour Party is absolutely open to providing bipartisan support, but you need a credible transition plan, and that's not something that the National Party have come up with.
They also talked about a large overhaul coming to local government, and sounded like it was quite aligned with the Resource Management Act. Do you have any sort of idea what's coming for that?
We are open to a conversation on how we can do local government better. Is there a need for change? Yes, absolutely. Is there a space for us to do things more efficiently in local government? Yes, absolutely. Does the National Party's recent actions suggest that they see that problem? No, it doesn't. The Three Waters reform, for example, which they scrapped, would have resulted in a significantly more efficient way of delivering water infrastructure for the country, and the National Party pulled the rug out from under it.
The example they used this morning was if a 21-year-old on $65,000, they'll be X amount better off. I mean, from your knowledge, how many 21-year-olds want $65,000?
Bit out of touch. In fact, it's more than a bit out of touch. I think the National Party don't really understand what life is like for the average worker at the moment. It's tough going in New Zealand. People are just making ends meet. Increasing KiwiSaver contributions is a good thing, but without a plan to support people in the process of increasing KiwiSaver contributions, a lot of Kiwis are going to be hit really hard by it. Cool. Easy. Thank you. I hope that was nice and short and sharp for you.